Hey everyone, before the show gets started, who wants to join the NCFB podcast on a road trip to Kinston to watch the series finale of A Chef's Life? Well, on Sunday, October 21st, we meet up at The Kitchen, the name of our new downtown Raleigh studios on the corner of Hargett and Fayetteville Street. We'll start gathering around 12:30 for the bus ride that leaves at 1 p.m. sharp. Our friends at Social House Vodka and Mother Earth Brewing are providing drinks for the ride, and we have Michael's English Muffins making her amazing sandwiches as we head down to Kinston. Once we're there, we'll stop off at 3 Stacks Distilling to see how Social House Vodka is made. And then we'll head to downtown Kinston to Mother Earth Brewing for a brief tour and to check out their awesome tap room. And then the main event, which is to watch the series finale of A Chef's Life. That's right, the award-winning A Chef's Life is coming to an end, but the final episode, titled The Final Harvest, will be screened out in the field at Granger Stadium, home of the Down East Wood Ducks. And cozy up with your favorite blanket in the outfield for a panel with Vivian and the A Chef's Life crew before we settle in to watch the 1-hour series finale. Tickets are $85, but with that you'll receive complimentary drinks, a bus ride, lunch, and tickets to the finale of The Chef's Life. And because we know it's a school night, we'll even get you back to Raleigh by about 10:30. So, join us October 21st. For more information, go to our Facebook page or click the show notes on this podcast. And if you have any questions, hit us up on @NCFBpod on Instagram or Twitter. See you there.
You're listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast, coming to you from the Kitchen Studios, located high atop the historic Raleigh building, located in the heart of downtown Raleigh. The NCF&B Podcast takes you behind the scenes of North Carolina's food and beverage industry. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NCFBpod. This episode is sponsored in part by Food Scene. That's foodseen.com. Providing professional photography, social media management, video production, and website design. That's Food Scene. And now, the sommeliers to the stars, the barbacks in your backyard. It is Max and Matt.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast, also known as the NCF&B Podcast, where it is our mission to promote North Carolina as a travel destination and support the growth and development of its food and beverage industry with compelling stories, interviews, and live events. And just as all good things must come to an end, we are at Vivian Howard Headquarters in the midst of filming the final episode of the Peabody, James Beard, and Emmy Award-winning program, A Chef's Life, with the final episode premiering October 22nd on PBS. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo. Matthew Weiss is on assignment in Rhinebeck, New York. So we're going to need a co-host. Where could we find... Miss, would you please help me co-host the NCFB podcast?
I will do my best.
And please announce who you are.
My name is Vivian Howard, and the earphones are way too big for my head. They must be for the person who usually hosts this. It was far too busy to be here tonight.
Yeah, that's a Long Island head you're talking about.
Yeah, he may lose his job.
We'll see how well you go. I mean, this is kind of an audition because, I mean, your current profession, we're on the last day of this job right now. Is that correct?
Yes, but if I'm auditioning for the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast, then I did not do my job on A Chef's Life.
I will take that in the spirit that it is intended.
Thank you for having me on, guys.
Thank you so much for being on the show. And Matt, I hope you're having a great time in New York. But Vivian, we are here at VHQ in Kinston. We just watched Miss Lily give a clinic in biscuit making. Chef Bill Smith has been...
He made some, I think they were called brick biscuits earlier.
Brick biscuits.
According to Miss Lily, yes.
And there's been a deep fried turkey going on. I mean, is this a typical day at VHQ with all this cooking happening?
Well, there's typically some cooking happening, but not as many novices in the kitchen, and I'm not speaking about Miss Lily.
Andrea Weigel, that's who you mean.
Well, no, she's good. She's good.
Just kidding. Former guest of the show, good friend. Well, before we bring on these booze hounds who are just to the right and left of us, and we'll get into that in a quick moment, I do want to have a Barbara Walters moment with you, and I even brought the tissue. Just in case.
Because it's really hot out here, actually.
We're about to get into a great podcast where we have 4 amazing distillers east of the I-95 in North Carolina. But we're also here to talk about the final days of a chef's life. So I've got to ask you, how are you feeling at this very moment over this weekend? What's going through your mind?
Well, I am a little bit more emotional than I thought I would be. I'm sad that so many people are sad that this is, quote, ending. I don't feel as if it's ending at all. I feel as if what we're doing is an evolution of the show that we have been making for the past 5 years. You know, the subject of every episode of A Chef's Life is one ingredient that is tied to Southern cuisine.
Right.
And we've done all those ingredients, I believe, folks. We're about to start pulling curry powder out of our back pocket.
G?
Yeah.
I mean, I saw my friend G here. So I just went to the first culture I thought of. And so it was time for me professionally and personally to evolve and tell slightly different stories about the South. So nothing's ending. Don't cry.
That was the big shocker, because I think everybody misconstrued what social media might have meant, or what any articles out there were talking about regarding A Chef's Life. So what does that mean then? Let's put all of our listeners' heads at ease. What is the future of A Chef's Life?
Right. So, frankly, this weekend we are shooting the series finale of A Chef's Life. It will be an hour-long A Chef's Life extravaganza with all the people that you love and know from the show, making appearances and teaching and learning and eating and laughing at me, probably. So that we're shooting that. We've been shooting it for 2 weeks, but the culmination of it will be tomorrow night, and it will air October 22nd.
Yep.
I think in most of the country, and we're having a viewing party in Kinston on October 21st at the Wood Duck Stadium.
Ooh.
And it's going to be super fun. I'm going to conduct a panel I'm going to conduct it, so you might want to watch just to learn something.
You have to be there. That's Wood Duck Stadium is the local baseball team, right?
Yes,
Minor
yes.
League,
We have a minor,
base,
absolutely.
AAA baseball, yeah.
It's a big deal for our town to have it here, and so we'll show the series finale. We'll conduct a panel with the people that you never see on the show that have been there from the beginning. So all the production team, the camera folks, the director Cynthia Hill, Amy Shoemaker, who's the person who said this is special, and I want to take it where I can from PBS. And so we're really excited to have that kind of celebration around this last episode of what you know A Chef's Life to be. And then after that, we've been filming a series of 7 one-hour episodes of a new show that does not have a name, not because we haven't offered some, but because PBS has not approved them. But it's a show about the South. And
What was a really good name that got turned down?
South by Somewhere.
South by Somewhere.
Yes, and so instead of every episode being about an ingredient, every episode is about a dish that every culture shares. You know, every culture has a dumpling, every culture has a catch-all stew, a quick bread.
Yeah.
Our quick bread would be biscuits or cornbread. And so we talk about the Southern version for a bit, and then I learn from people who live in the South, not just Eastern North Carolina, but the greater South, who are friends of mine and are of different cultures. So far we filmed with a Korean friend of mine and Michael Lee in Durham. We've filmed... Yes.
Guest of the show, one of our best friends. He's amazing.
Yes, he's in the dumpling episode. We filmed with another friend and producer of the show, actually, Melinda Lowry, for Lumbee Homecoming.
Oh, yeah.
We go down to Edisto Island during Charleston Wine and Food and learn about the Geechee Gullah culture. So it's both about immigrants and just the South that we don't necessarily celebrate all the time.
Sure.
So I'm very excited.
But it's a natural evolution and progression for what you're doing.
Absolutely. And the great news is that in most cases it will be aired in prime time all over the country. And that's being on PBS, you kind of have to fight to be seen everywhere. Every programmer decides whether or not they're going to air you and when they do. And so this will allow us an opportunity to promote the show in a way we've never been able to.
It sounds awesome. I got to know.
If you got any ideas for a name, call Max.
Yeah. Email me at djsquid5000@hotmail. I'm just kidding. That's it. A joke only I will get.
I bet they'll be able to find you, though.
Yeah. But no, okay. But I want to know. A chef's life has really been. It's almost like your restaurant, almost like your first restaurant in the television world, right? It was your first gig, and you got out there, and now you're about to finish this and start a new one. Which essentially, for you probably feel like this is a transition that just makes a lot of sense. But what's going on? Do you have some anxiety, some fears of the normalcy of just having your home base, which has been a chef's life, to go into the next level? And how do you feel about that?
I absolutely have a lot of anxiety around it, and not until recently, actually. I have these ideas that possess me, and it's kind of like no one is going to stop the idea, whether it's good or bad. And so I really push for this evolution of the show, and like a bull. And when we announced that the show was ending and there's all this sadness and anxiety from other people around it, I started thinking, like, wow, what have I done?
Well, it's probably the same thought if you had a restaurant and you said, well, we're going to shut this one down and we're going to open a new place.
And this one's really successful. And we just won like an Emmy.
Yeah.
And yes, I feel you. I feel like a dummy sometimes. But at the same time, as you said, I've been the epicenter of the narrative of a chef's life. And I feel as if people respond to it because I'm authentic and I'm learning, and it's a journey I want to share. And I felt like that journey needed to change, and I think people can sense that. And so hopefully our viewers and fans will enjoy seeing me learning about different stuff.
I can understand only in a very small parallel in that when Matt and I decided to do the North Carolina Food and Beverage podcast, we were very limiting to say we were just going to talk about North Carolina. But I get sometimes you want to do more. You want to expand because this world is not as big as we think when we talk about food, and it is very similar. That every culture kind of does have their version of what we consider our home cooking or so. So that makes sense, and I look forward to seeing how you're going to parallel all that together.
Yeah, I have always looked for connections in cooking. The way that I did something versus the way that Miss Lily did something, and this is, I think, just a more broad and further reaching, but also very close to home way to look at cooking. And hopefully for me, what I want is I think we're at a stage in our culture and our sentiment where we're very afraid of one another. And my hope is that with this new show, in a very small way, with a very small number of people, we're able to soften the edges around how we feel about one another through food and finding those connections between cultures.
Well, in parting from this first segment, I got to ask one last question regarding a chef's life. Just for the last, it's been about 6 years that you've been doing it. It's 5 seasons, but it's been a lot of your life. Could you think of? Is there any way that you could surmise the most important life lesson that you might have learned from doing this show?
Never underestimate the people around you and the wisdom that they may have. And
hear that, Matt?
And also don't assume that because someone doesn't have your point of view that they don't have a valid point of view.
Nice. So you've been able to kind of expand upon what you've done coming in. I just watching old episodes and then watching current episodes now, you really do see the growth where you were just in the kitchen and you're like, oh my God, there are cameras everywhere, to now you're a seasoned pro. There are cameras all around us right now, and you're just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but I'm not doing anything but talking now.
This is easy, right?
Yeah, back in the day, I was struggling and also failing on camera all the time, and also okay with it, and also wearing maternity clothes and not pregnant at all, or even close.
Recently we had Joe Kwan from the Ava Brothers on the show just 2 weeks ago. Can we try to at least get another Avett Brothers song on as your theme song for the new show?
That's been a big source of anxiety for our team, because the opening for the show is just, I don't know that we can top it, because the music, it so speaks to the message of the show and to North Carolina, and the Avett Brothers are from North Carolina, so trust that we are not taking that task lightly.
Yeah.
And we're going to try and honor what we've done and usher in, a new artist, possibly also from North Carolina, and maybe with a female voice.
Ooh.
Maybe. I'm not making any promises.
Oh,
Cynthia's over there looking at me like, she's smiling, actually.
Don't drop it. Well, that's the last, I guess I said last question, but the PS question. Are all these people holding microphones and cameras and all, is this their last day as well, or are you bringing them on?
You act like we're putting everybody on, unemployment or something.
Yeah, sorry guys, this is your notice.
As I said, this is not ending.
Right. No, but the next show, you're not going with new and shinier, fancier people for the next production?
Unless someone's going to replace me, no.
All right, well, let's take a quick break. We're going to come right back and we're going to discuss the Distillers east of the I-95. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, we're taking a quick break before we get back in with Vivian Howard to discuss all of these amazing distilleries east of the I-95. But with me in studio right now is a brand new sponsor of the podcast, Miss Laura Harris, your preferred restaurant industry agent.
Hello.
Laura, you're a realtor. You are an industry agent finding people homes, but the food and beverage industry is where you came up.
So I was in the food and beverage industry for 17 years and recently made the transition to real estate. So with my understanding of the industry and all of its challenges, I've taken a lot of my skill set and transferred that just kind of into a new realm of work. So I'm really excited about it, and I'm excited to work with restaurant industry professionals, and I'm really excited to jump in and get working for everyone.
So if you want to reach Laura and you're looking for a home, you can go to ncfbhomes.com. You get that? It's like North Carolina Food and Beverage Homes. So it's a special website so that you can find out all of her information. You can also reach her on Instagram at Lolo the Realtor. That's right, Lolo the Realtor. And she can help find you a home. Being that she's in the industry and she gets it, she understands your heavy work schedule. She even offers a commission rebate for all food and beverage industry people available at closing. It's $1,000. It's free beer money to stock your kitchen. And then, of course, you have to invite me and Matt, and we'll come over and we'll party. Whether or not you're in the food and beverage industry, you're looking for a new home, you got to reach out to Laura Harris. She is your preferred restaurant industry agent. She's always there to save you time, money, and hassle. You can reach her at 919-896-2697 or go to ncfbhomes.com. Powered by Fathom Realty.
And now, please welcome to the ice, your Carolina chefs. Social House Vodka, the handcrafted and gluten-free vodka from North Carolina, has partnered with the Carolina Hurricanes to present the inaugural All-Star Celebrity Chef Series. Throughout the 2018-2019 hockey season, culinary enthusiasts will be able to enjoy 6 special dinners prepared by some of North Carolina's best chefs. Tickets to the event will include a 4-course dinner, cocktail provided by one of the state's best mixologists, and seats for that evening Carolina Hurricanes game. The exciting lineup of chefs includes culinary talent from Wilmington to Asheville and everywhere in between. The chefs participating are scheduled to begin on November 10th with Dean Neff of Pinpoint Restaurant in Wilmington.
Fun things happen when you collaborate on menus like this.
And Chris Coleman of Stoke Charlotte.
Yeah, cooking with vodka in dishes is something maybe new. Cooking with vodka in glasses nearby, that happens quite frequently.
Right now we're seeing these really beautiful stone crab claws, and so I'm definitely going to be bringing things from the coast over there. That's what most people want me to bring when I head inland.
We have a Korean-style fried chicken, so it's double dredged in a tempura batter and fried, and that tempura batter leans heavily on vodka. Because the higher the alcohol, it makes, bubbles kind of pop up rapidly in the batter in the fryer. So you get this really light, crispy, delicious crust on this fried chicken. So I could see us doing something like that, maybe with vodka.
The Celebrity Chef Series promises to bring an international flavor down home to North Carolina. Tickets for the Carolina Hurricanes All-Star Celebrity Chef Series and hockey games are $125. For details, check our show notes. And to get up-to-date schedules, follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
All right, and welcome back. So again, I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I'm Vivian Howard, your host.
And we're missing Matthew Weiss. He's on assignment. He's doing something up in New York. But really important right now, today we have 4 gentlemen that represent some amazing distilleries in North Carolina. We have Jeremy Norris of Broadslab Distillery. Welcome.
Woo-hoo!
We have Kevin Graham, a.k.a. Big Shooter of Mother Earth Spirits. We have Scott Smith of Outer Banks Distilling, way out there.
Ahoy.
Yeah. And G. Patel of Social House Vodka.
Hello.
All right, gentlemen. Oh, and there's the lovely Holly Pierce.
Thank you.
With a bowl of ice.
I needed some ice.
Thanks, Vanna.
Is it for your eyes?
Let's see.
And I can tell you this ice scoop has probably been far worse places than your hands.
Okay.
That over there.
I didn't want to.
I was cooking raw turkey, though.
Yeah, that's all right.
I wish you'd kill it.
Yeah.
This is the best part. It's other distillers opening other distillers' bottles of booze.
North Carolina.
That's
So
what we
they
do.
all share.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shooter.
Key.
It's all about
That's good.
support. Yeah.
So that's Big Shooter. We did learn in the break that Shooter and I both hail from Northern California.
That we do.
Raider fan?
You bet.
Hell yeah. Well, let's start with you, Shooter, since you were the first one to speak. You represent Mother Earth. Point of reference, for those that don't know, but Mother Earth is a fantastic brewery.
Right.
And I believe that was first, correct?
Right. Absolutely.
The distillery came later.
Right.
And so it makes a whole lot of sense, though, when you brew a bunch of beer to make liquor in general. A lot of times you start from a wort or
Right. You start with a beer and take it from there.
beer,
Yeah.
and then you turn it into liquor.
So I ran out and bought a book called Distilling for Dummies, and here I am.
And here we are.
A couple YouTube shows. And you're
Yeah,
not.
exactly. I'm there.
I would like to point out this thing that I spoke to Matt Hart the other day about who's the head brewer at Mother Earth now, and I was like, how is it finding new people to work in the brewery? Because we've always struggled with, trained staff at our restaurants. And he's like, we took a different approach. We started getting folks who live in the area and teaching them from the ground up and really nurturing that talent and
promoting from within.
Yes. And I feel like that's kind of what
Matthew
happened
and I
with
have been on that same page all along, and that's what's happened. My distiller Daniel started in the cellar over there, and I stole it. But basically,
that's not where
internally.
Hey,
No.
Shooter.
Well,
It's not going to be #Steeler tonight, okay?
Okay. I promoted him to come with me, and I promoted Alex from the production side into the cellar, and Matthew and I were on the same page about that, and our assistant distiller is local, and it's a great way. Instead of bringing somebody from Chicago in here, we wanted to bring in the people from around here.
Someone who we found, if you promote from within, people often stay.
I agree.
It creates loyalty and they care about the brand.
Yeah,
right?
and other folks who start can see the path to, the top.
Right.
My mom just retired after working at one job at Lockheed Missiles and Space for 38 years, and I said, that vestige is gone.
Yeah,
no one will do that ever again. Let's keep kicking it around. So Jeremy Norris of Broadslab Distillery. Now you were on you've been on 2 episodes of A Chef's Life.
I think episode 13, season 1.
Yeah.
Season
Moonshine.
4, yeah, and then season 4, what episode? I forgot the episode.
Field Peas, one of our most famous. Like, your Aunt Virginia showed you up. I'm so sorry. So, beating those field peas.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Never been done before on TV, I don't think.
That was a good one.
Well, welcome to the show. So,
thanks for having me.
Tell us, where are you actually located?
We're right at the intersection of I-95 and I-40 in Benson, North Carolina. Yeah, and kind of in the middle of nowhere, but we got those 2 major interstates right there at us. So we started the distillery, 6 years ago.
And you're most notable for making moonshine, correct?
Yes.
Tell them
yes,
the
that's
story
kind of-
about why Broadslab is known for moonshine.
Well, because of my granddaddy always said that it was the moonshine capital of the world, but that can start
Right,
an
but why
argument.
did he say that?
It literally, back in the day,
It was something about
almost-
the water.
well, the water. Well,
Or
it
the-
takes good water to make good liquor. Yeah, but we had plenty of good water, but everybody did it, and it's real. You don't have to go 300 feet to get water where we're at. You can get pretty good water at a shallow depth. And
What does Broadslab, the word, come from?
comes from the broad slab of a tree. There used to be real big in the turpentine industry in that region in the 1700s. They had sawmills, turpentine distilleries right there on the farm, and they also, it's kind of a wet area, so the road that went through the farm was a main route, horse and buggy path or a horse and wagon path. So it would get real wet, and they'd mar up and get stuck, and the road would become impassable. So what they did, they took those old broad slabs, the first cuts, and laid down in the roadbed and built a road out of those old broad slabs. So that's where we got a name at.
That's awesome.
And so moonshine, though, for someone that doesn't know the difference between, say, like whiskey and moonshine, white lightning, right? But how do we make the biggest differentiator from whiskey to moonshine?
There is not a legal category, as far as with the TTB, that's a moonshine category. You've got a legal bourbon, you got a legal rum, you got a legal vodka category. There is not a moonshine category. It's just kind of a word of mouth.
Regional?
Regional. And we actually took the moon out of our shine. We just call it shine. Because that can be kind of a double-edged sword. Some people have had a great experience with moonshine. Some people have had a bad experience with moonshine. So we decided to take the moon out of it. Yeah, we took the moon out of it and just we preferred just to shine.
Well, Vivian, wouldn't you, like, when you think of moonshine, at least when you were a kid, you always thought of it as like 180 proof, right? Like the stuff that you like could get all the grease off of your barbecue with if you needed to.
I grew up in a teetotaler household.
Okay, so maybe not your house.
So we had these, around the holidays, people would give my parents like quart jars of things that had like apples floating in them or like some fruit floating in them. And I don't know where they went, but they went away.
Sure.
So,
somehow.
Yeah, I wasn't drinking them.
But moonshine doesn't have to have that connotation, or shine doesn't have to have that connotation of being, extremely high in alcohol content.
No, and that's
Explain to them why it has such a bad rap.
Well, so there's several. Moonshine can be defined depending on who you ask in a different way.
True that.
The reason why we call my product moonshine, the reason why I feel like it's a traditional moonshine, is because I make it the same way that my granddaddy, his daddy, and his daddy did, and
his daddy.
Yeah, and his daddy. But so the key ingredient to moonshine is first off grain, but you add cane sugar to it also. And people say, well, you're making sugar liquor. Well, I've been in a moonshining community all my life. And
wait, is sugar liquor like a bad word? Sounds
well,
like a bad
some
word
people, depending on who you ask.
Sugar liquor.
Yeah, it depending on who you ask, but that is one of the components in the mash bill of moonshine.
Okay.
And the reason for that is the more sugar you have, the more alcohol you can ferment, but ours still has a corn and barley note. You can taste the grains. And some people say, well, if you add sugar, it's not worthy. But I think it makes a pretty good concoction when you add the grain and the sugar.
Sure.
But so that's my definition of moonshine. If you do something traditionally with open fermentation,
is why when people say moonshine, you think that you're gonna your teeth are gonna fall out.
Oh, okay.
And you're gonna have
That's what
yes. So and I tell people, depending on, there's so many horror stories about moonshine. Some people were not clean. Some people were not health conscious. They run lead radiators for condensers and give people lead poisoning.
Wow.
And they would throw old batteries into mash to make it work off quicker.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so that's depending on where you got it. Depending on where you got it from.
Mash press, right?
That's what I was looking for, Jeremy. Yeah.
So that's why it's got a bad rap. And also, bootleggers, a lot of them, they don't do any type of head cut, which these guys here know what a head cut is.
Heads and tails.
Right,
Tell us what
exactly.
that is.
So the heads are compounds in the mash that have lower boiling points than ethanol, such as little acetone, little methanol, and a bunch of other compounds that I can't pronounce.
Fingernail polish remover, if you don't know what that is.
So it's also
I
your
suffer
high.
from no acetol.
So it's also the highest proof.
No acetol.
So that the bootlegger won't throw it away
Right.
because he'll kill his proof and kill his yield.
Right.
And that don't do you any good either.
No. But every moonshiner I talked to said there's drinking shine and there's selling shine.
Yeah. Let me tell you a little story. This won't take just a second. There you go. So
Now it's gotten started.
Whiskey's working.
When I was this fits into that. So when I was, and Vivian's been out. You've been out of our place.
Sure.
Right? So you know the long road. I built that road going in there and built the building. And I was so busy on trying to get the place built, I hadn't put a lot of thought in exactly what I was going to make. So I went to my granddaddy one day and I called him Pa. I said, Pa, we're getting close to getting opened up. I said, I want to make something truly authentic and hard to duplicate. What do you think I should make? And he said, well, son, I used to make 2 different kinds of liquor. And I said, well, this will be good. We'll have a couple of different options, you know. He said, yeah, we'll have some choices. And he said, and his comment was, 1 to sell and 1 to drink.
That's right. That's right.
So that is the truth. That is
Absolutely.
So what's the one to drink? What's that taste like?
That's what we make.
Yeah.
The one to drink is what you wouldn't mind drinking.
Right.
You know, the one to sell is
It's got everything in it.
But
push
that's
it out.
old school. Like
That's
he
old
wasn't
school.
trying
Yeah.
to, get in the ABC store.
And there's nothing wrong with the old selling liquor either. They just didn't take as much time with it. They just got it on out.
He's like, oh, sorry, Paul.
Yeah.
Well, let's keep flipping it around the room. So, G Patel, you are a former guest of the show many times over.
Yes.
From the 2016,
Can't remember.
2017 NCRLA Restaurateur of the Year.
1999.
That's right.
This guy, G Patel, is a major impact into the food and beverage community into North Carolina. And congratulations, it's been 23 years.
24.
24 years
that's right.
since you immigrated from India to North Carolina, and you were out there in Morehead City. You were way more North Carolina than me, than most of us.
Yeah.
And
Cheers
for
that. Yeah, salute.
Cheers.
I mean, I love North Carolina.
Chin chin.
Yeah. Cheers.
Afui and all that.
And,
Shit. Sorry. Hitting the machinery.
you get to cuss on this podcast.
We'll
I
cut
did.
that out.
Yes.
Of course, Social House Vodka is also born in North Carolina, and our listeners know it well because you've been a proud sponsor of the podcast for a long time. Talking to guys that have probably been doing this for a really long time, is it fair to say that you're more like the new age of distillers in this region?
I'm a child at this. I did not know anything about distilling. Just like anything from restaurants even, I like learning from just researching and meeting people who've been doing it for a long time and understanding the concept of it. By no means am I a master distiller, but I understand the concept of it, how things are made, and I feel like we've taken the resources that we have, such as NC State, such as the agriculture that we have in North Carolina, to make a product that's sippable. And I enjoy it probably more than I should. But
So, G, you went to NC State, right?
Yes, correct.
But when did you graduate?
I graduated in 2005, so I went to NC State from 02 to 05.
Yeah, you're so much younger than I am. I'm sorry. I was going to be like, I think we were there together. But we were not.
I'm actually mentally or physically I might look young, but mentally I'm about at least 50.
I'm sure. Because you're doing Social House Vodka, but you're a businessman. Like, you've got like all kinds of stuff going on in the business.
I'm an entrepreneur by heart, and I think coming from, I've grown up in India. We're farmers, right? My father was a farmer, and moving here, you literally have to hustle to kind of make a living. It's not.
Your last name is
Patel.
Patel.
Yeah,
I've recently done some research around the Indian country culture. Like, it's not fair to call it a country because there's so many like different
facets of it.
Yes,
Yeah,
and the
sure.
Patels are like independent business owners.
We are entrepreneurs. We're farmers originally. I mean, so Gujarat is one region of the state where I come from, and predominantly we farm, and then we take that and then do other things.
Take it
with
to market. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but when you got here, you told us that like your family had a small motel and you were folding sheets and cleaning.
Dude, I'm a master. If anybody ever
Every
needs,
Days in the southeast at least is owned by a Patel.
I would not disagree.
Yeah.
I grew up in the Days in Havelock, which my uncle owned. Yeah. So. Believe it or not, I met a fellow, John, he works at 42nd Oyster, and he's like, yeah, I grew up in Harlow. I was like, oh, shit, I know exactly where Harlow's at. It's like,
I grew up in the same hotel.
But, yeah, I mean, grew up in the hotel business, and that's where I kind of really cut my teeth with the hospitality.
Yeah.
And really enjoy the interaction with people, and that kind of bled into me.
And I'd say that, if anything, like when you talk about who Social House is, it's for you guys. I mean,
correct.
But that's kind of your vibe. It's like, hey man, we're trying to get out there and meet people and talk to people and create a moment that we all can have a good time with. And we love vodka, so there we go.
That's it. I mean, vodka essentially. I mean, obviously we want to make a good spirit, but also the spirit is the aspect behind the moment that you're creating. Like this right here, right? This to me, this is happiness, right? And the cocktails that we have, the spirits that we have, that becomes a secondary component of it. It wasn't, it's like, I want to, start making vodka and then this is what it is. It was just, it was a part of our culture and the friends that we had and the enjoyment that we had talking about our friends and our family and the happiness that it created. And then we always saw the spirits was the center of it, and martinis mostly. Carrie and I, you'll find the two martini glasses in the logo, and we had to get that in the branding somehow, but that's what it was about.
And what I want to say is that, like, Ben and I have been working in downtown Kinston for 13, 14 years now, and Stephen Hill came in and shortly after, like, made tremendous investment in our community, and, we all feel like we're, like, the three of us feel like we're working really hard and investing hard in our community, and then suddenly it's like somebody else is going to do something down here, and we thought it was a joke. Like, is this really going to happen? Because we heard lots of, warnings before, like people are going to do this in this building or this in this building, and then it falls through, and then you all do it, and I'm like, dude, these people are legit too. I know him already. Like, it's not going to disappear. And so for us, y'all building Social House Vodka here in our town, in such an awesome building. I hope y'all do something there, because
we're flying to Louisville Saturday, and we're going to do a bunch of touring, and it's on.
It's a beautiful spot. Like, if I wanted to do anything else, I would have. Well,
what do you mean if? When do we do it?
No,
right?
I mean, I don't want.
Do something with your life.
I mean, I just lay in bed all day usually. I mean, you dragged me out of here by two arms earlier out of my bed. But anyway, I just wanted that. I appreciate the sharing of community, because good things can happen in small towns.
Sure.
So let me ask this question, actually, because this is something that's interesting. Shooter and I talked about the Bay Area, and I'm from San Jose, and that's the Silicon Valley. And back when I was growing up, that was a small town.
Right.
It was a mid-level city.
Right.
It is now a metropolis, right? It's massive. Big business is coming into town, into Raleigh, into the Triangle. We're getting... there's a new warehouse for Amazon coming. Supposedly, Apple is coming.
Correct.
Wait, they're both coming?
Yeah. Well, but the big
I
Amazon.
should have bought a place in Raleigh.
No, it's just a company that's selling apples, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's just Washington apples that are just coming. No, but Apple's coming to have another headquarters out here, and so that's going to completely increase population no matter what. And San Jose now, like, I couldn't move back to my hometown.
No.
So it's great and it's thriving, but it's just kind of the natural progression of anything that's going to move to the next level. So where do you all, and we haven't gotten to Scott yet. You're from the Outer Banks, so you don't get to talk about this yet.
Right.
We'll finish with you, Scott.
You have a phone call, by the way.
Keep drinking, Scott.
It's my favorite sound.
You're the
What
dessert.
about this one?
You're the dessert course, Scott.
That means Scott's here. Drinks are going around.
What do you all think about Kinston with new business coming in, and where do you see it comfortable?
That's a good point. I mean, I've been here for a while because I'm old. But I think what you have to do is rise and fall. You know, Kinston was the hub of Eastern Carolina at one point. Right. It was the Miracle Mile. It's where everybody came to do their shopping. And this
tobacco
was tobacco and the industries and the music and the arts. And then it all died.
Right. Main Street's kind of sad to walk through.
It is. Queen Street's kind of died.
It's so sad.
I'm sorry,
but those people left. People that didn't want change, and those things are kind of gone. And now we have Vivian and Stephen and other people now that are G coming in, and other people, the restaurant community, they're all moving in and making it an arts district. But they've learned from that mistake to not put all their eggs in one basket, but promote the community. Right. And there are younger people moving in, and we have younger people in government, and they're making this an arts community that will thrive through the years. I think we've got years and years and years to go to the next level, and I'm excited about it.
Kinston has that a lot of small towns don't have is this tremendous infrastructure that was founded in Kinston being the hub of Eastern North Carolina. So when you walk down Queen Street, yes, it's depressing because what you see is like former majesty.
Right.
And so these buildings are really beautiful and they have tons of potential, like walking through like the rough part of Harlem.
Right.
And
you see all the potential of this city.
Yeah, so we have that. When you go to like Greenville, North Carolina, or Goldsboro, you see them like trying to cobble something together in their downtown and make it look awesome in a way that we wouldn't have to. So what I hope is that the Triangle grows to the degree that downtown Kinston or Kinston can be a community that's like people who work in the Triangle, on this side of the Triangle. I mean, shit. I used to live in Brooklyn and travel an hour and a half on the subway.
Exactly, one way.
Yeah, into New York and then fight to get home every night. So I think that people will do that, and we just need to make our community a place that has like awesome coffee shops and places to have brunch and good grocery stores and stuff for kids to do, so that on the weekends when the people who work in the Triangle they can stay in our community and enjoy it, so they don't have to go back to the Triangle.
Right. It wasn't hard at all. I kid around. I think Justin Wright is an employee that we share. At the time, I used to employ him when I was at Standard Foods. Well, he came with the territory. I didn't hire him. He was already there.
He's the best thing you had.
But I would hire him 10 times over because he's awesome. And he is also a listener of this show. So what's up, Justin?
Hey, Justin. And remind him he's going to get his ass kicked in fantasy football this year. Good job, Hannah.
You just did.
That's our bartender, Hannah, right there.
He also was on the keto diet and just dropped like 80 pounds, which is crazy.
I barely reckon.
Yeah.
He's so weird.
Love you, Justin.
So weird to lose weight and be healthy.
I was until then.
Yeah. But he, I think, lives in Wendell, which is just outside of Raleigh, and he used to drive to Standard, now he drives back to Chef of the Farmer every day to work for you. And he takes that commute, but really that's an easy commute. G and I were talking about it. He's like, that's like 45 minutes. Who cares?
And you're moving. You're moving. It's so much better than sitting.
All right. Speaking of sitting, there's been a gentleman, Scott Smith, who's been sitting here.
Has not said a word.
Maybe I don't want to talk. I'm just sitting on the
street. We're just going to cut the room.
Who are you actually?
Yeah, he's just been sitting here drinking this whole time, and now I don't even know if his mouth's going to work. So
not now.
Nobody's ever described me as the strong and silent type. That's never.
Okay, so now we are speaking with Scott Smith of the Outer Banks Distilling, which sometimes you wouldn't know what we're talking about when we say Outer Banks Distilling, but what we're really talking about is Kill Devil Hills rum.
Just Kill Devil rum, actually.
It's just Kill Devil rum.
Yeah, it's kind of a common misconception. So we all live in Kill Devil Hills. It's a town name. So basically we live in, sorry, I'll speak into the microphone so I can hear every word I have to say. So we all live in Kill Devil Hills. So basically it's rum hills that we live in, and we named it Kill Devil Rum. So it's rather redundant. It's rum.
All I know is from the previous Outer Banks episodes that we've done is that it was called Kill Devil Hills. That when you had a rumbling in your belly and you weren't feeling well, you were getting sick, you poured some rum in your belly, and that killed the devil that was in your bellies. Am I wrong by saying that?
Right, you're kind of on the same
Or your
track.
brain.
Or your brain or your liver. I've got the liver of a moose, so I'm fine. But
You were in Kinston, and you wanted to go to the Outer Banks. How far would you have to go?
it's 2.5 hours. It's solid. You're driving.
You can't get there from here.
You're driving on 2-lane roads. It is an absolute
Actually, you have to
beautiful
take a
drive,
canoe.
You can, or you can go
It's so far.
all the way
Take the
down to
libations.
Harker's Island. Go to Harker's Island. Go over to Ocracoke. Take the ferry to Hatteras. Drive all the way up Hatteras Island. Go across the bridge at Oregon Inlet. Come across.
By then your vacation's over.
Yeah, by then you've been driving so long.
It's time to come home.
Yeah.
Time to come home.
Anyone that doesn't live in North Carolina or those that don't get out to the Outer Banks, what we're saying is when you look at a map of North Carolina, you see the whole eastern seaboard just looks like a big jigsaw mess. That's where he's at. It's a big jigsaw mess.
Our distillery is at exactly 8 feet above sea level, which is when we bought that building. I walked around and asked every old person I could find. I'd be like, "Hey, you look old. Have you ever seen that old Twyford building flood?" And people were like, "Who? What are you talking about?" I was like, "No, seriously, has it ever flooded in your lifetime?" And everyone said no. I was like, "All right, done deal. I'll sign my name. Let's buy it."
That's a scientific experiment. Let's talk about Kill Devil. So, what are you making? Because it's Outer Banks Distilling, but really we're
right. So
talking
Outer Banks Distilling is our distillery. Our brand name is Kill Devil Rum. So the way we wanted to bring back, we had a really strong history of rum in our area. We really wanted to bring that back. So of the four of us in the business, it's not just me. So I have Adam Ball, Kelly Bray, and Matt Newsom. Every time I do any event anywhere ever, I always have to bring up their names because it never would have been done without all four of us together. So I have to give them their credit where it's due. So we all were working
They're
together.
back there making rum, and you're here drinking it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. They're there every day, and I'm off gallivanting around, taking all. Just give me the credit. Just give me
I'll do your ice shake.
I haven't seen how much you poured in your glass, Vivian. I'm on to you over there.
I know. I'm good.
So I went back. We were working at Outer Banks Brewing Station in Kill Devil Hills. They worked back in the brewery. I worked at the bar. I went back there one day, and I looked at Adam, and I was like, "Hey, man, what do you think about making rum?" And he looked at me and gave me a really weird look. And he's back in the brewery. I came right out of the bar, and he's looking at me. He's like, "Well, what do you think about making rum?" I was like, "Well, I think it's a good idea. Now fill up my glass with this beer so I can chug it and go back to work." And he came in and back to the bar and said, "Hey, come to this meeting." So I went to. It ended up being a meeting at Kelly's house. We all got together and we decided we were going to start this whole thing. And really, the idea was to bring back the history of rum on the Outer Banks. And it's a North Carolina. It's a great legend to have, and it's a great history. So the first
tell them about how rum is so important to there.
It really is. So the first term for rum, before they ever called it that, they called it Kill Devil. And the drinking originated during the colonial period, late 1500s, early 1600s in the Caribbean. So back then you have people who are a little bit more spiritual than we are right here. So they would drink water that was infected with bacteria. It was tainted. It was make them sick. When you were sick, you had the devil inside you. Mm-hmm. So they started distilling sugarcane and molasses from these plantations they were working on, and they would not cut it back with this water because they knew the water was tainted. So it was high proof. It was really harsh. It was tough to get down, and they thought it would kill the devil inside you. So that's where the term originated. And then the town of Kill Devil Hills gets its name because basically during the Triangle Trade, you had ships coming from the Caribbean and they would head up to New England, or they'd even head into Hampton Roads area of Virginia, and you have to come by the Outer Banks. When you look at it on a map, it sticks out, and we have shifting sandbars, and you get a lot of storms there. The seas are really rough. There's the Labrador Current meets the Gulf Stream, so there's a lot of just really treacherous seas, and these wooden ships would sink right off our coast. And when a wooden ship sinks, the first thing that's going to pop back up are going to be these barrels of rum. And the locals got really savvy to this, and they would just wait for these ships to wreck. They grabbed the barrels of rum, they'd hide in the sand dunes. That way when wreckers would come down to the Outer Banks, they were stationed up in Norfolk, Virginia, and they would ensure the shipping lanes. So when a ship wrecked, they wanted all that cargo back. They'd look at the bill of lading, they'd come down, they'd try to have a wreck sale to try to get all their money back. But there was never any barrels of rum. They were all hidden in the sand dunes. And the
so
biggest
how many
sand
times
dunes,
could that have happened?
Yeah.
There's 5,000 shipwrecks off our coast.
So the entire island of the Outer Banks are just a bunch of thieves.
We're just very resourceful.
That's what I said. Resourceful, yeah.
This reminds me of like Star Wars, like the sand people.
Yeah.
Like they just come in, like or the Jawas. They just like take everything.
If it washes up onto
the
the beach, it's yours. Those are done deal. It's yours. But the biggest sand dune where people hid their rum barrels became known as Big Kill Devil Hill, and that's where the Wright Brothers Monument is.
Right.
So
and of course Blackbeard, he was notorious for this area. He used to intercept boats all the time, and he was a big proponent of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, the word Kill Devil pretty much came out of his mouth all the time. You're never going to see any rum history book or anything about Blackbeard without talking about Kill Devil. And he died in Ocracoke in November 22nd of 1718. And so
Give or take an hour.
You're right, but our 3-year anniversary rum is coming out this fall, and it's called Blackbeard's Reserve.
Wow.
The label is epic. It looks great.
And he lost his head, right?
He did. So the story is right there at Teach's Hole off of Ocracoke.
And so have you.
My mind. Have I lost my mind or my head? I don't know what I've lost.
It's just gone.
Yeah, all that history when it ties in. I'm a big history nerd. I have a little bit of an archaeology background too. Even in the Caribbean, that's how I fell in love with rum. And it was just too good of a story not to bring back to life. You know, when you look at the history of North Carolina, that's in there every single time.
I just always thought about rum in the Caribbean and just not here. And so I had no idea that there was such a rum culture on our coast. And
right.
I was intrigued by it. I'm not sure I believe everything you said.
Believe every word I have to say.
But we're sticking with it because it's just a podcast.
And also, you look at our coast. So you've got guys there. If you have fishermen, sailors, surfers, they live on the Outer Banks. They travel to the Caribbean. They fall in love with rum. Rum is part of it. There's more rum being drank there than anything else, and it makes more sense to make it there.
I think rum, I know I'm in the midst of a bunch of distillers, so I might step back from this.
Out.
But I've been waiting for rum to have its moment, really.
I banked my entire life on it.
Yeah.
If you really go back, and he was talking about the history of it here in North Carolina, but if you go back to the history of it in the islands, it was poor man's drink. Everything that was left over after they made sugar they couldn't sell. They couldn't sell it for cow feed or anything. So the locals took it home and fermented it and made rum out of it. And that was poor man's drink.
So what's the difference between rum and moonshine, like just in the process? Can you give that to me in 2 sentences?
2 sentences. Rum has to be made from sugarcane or sugarcane byproduct only. So there's 3 ingredients in our rum: molasses, yeast, and water.
2 sentences.
And then
I'm done. 2 sentences.
Okay. So what is moonshine in 2 sentences?
We actually try to make what I call it. So I kind of classify it as a whiskey because it does have so much grain in it, and we do go through the malting process, and we take a lot of pains with it to make a good quality product.
So the best moonshine would be made with what grain?
That depends on who you ask.
You're not helping me at all. Okay.
I never really told anybody this, really, but it's a cool. We tell people all the time at the distillery. We actually owe Jeremy a whole lot of debt of gratitude. So we were getting started. You know, we came from the brewing background. True story. So we came from brewing. We're in brewing. It's all about camaraderie. You start a small craft brewery. You're trying to go against Budweiser and Miller Lite and all that kind of stuff. And so we have that same mentality when it comes to our spirits. So getting into this, we were trying to find, we're like, okay, well, what we need to do is, one point we were trying to do our wastewater management plan, and we really needed to get some Dunders because he also makes a rum. So we called Jeremy and we said, hey, we're starting a distillery on the Outer Banks. We need samples to be sent off to the lab of Dunder, which is left over after a rum distillation. So just water, dead yeast, and distilled molasses. So we called Jeremy, we told him what we were doing. He was like, heck yeah, come out here. I'm doing a run. So we drove out, visited with him, became friends. He gave us some samples, sent it off to the lab in Wilmington, had everything tested, everything came back. Thank you, Hannah. She just brought me a drink.
Hannah is our podcast
and she's amazing.
bartender.
Our proud mama watching all of
If you ever want to see her, you should go to the bar at Chef and the Farmer. She's redheaded, slim, and beautiful. And if you really want to be talked shit to, she'll do it.
I experience it firsthand every time I see her.
It is my one true talent, is I will humble you.
Let's close this down. I'm going to go around the corner. I just want everyone to tell me what they make, where we can get it, and just go from there. And so, Social House, you make vodka.
We do. It's amazing. It's corn-based, gluten-free. We are sold across the state from the beach to the mountains on the majority of ABC stores. We're in about 400 restaurants and bars. So next time you go to a private restaurant, please ask for it. If they don't have it, ask why they have not.
All right, Shooter, what's your date of birth, address, and social security number?
Yeah, okay, it's 321.
What do you guys do over at Mother Earth? What do you make?
We make a world-class American gin. It's different than an English gin. It finishes in citrus, It's award-winning. We've won a lot of awards. We make a single malt whiskey, which is an American single malt. It's not. Don't think of Scotch. We don't use peat in it. It's more like an Irish whiskey, but we also won a gold medal with that this year. And it's available all over the state, and the gin is probably moving forward into other states very soon.
Sounds great. Jeremy from Broadslab, what are you making?
We make the clear traditional corn and barley moonshine with the malted corn, and we're a dirt to bottle distillery. I actually grow my own grains, and we process them and ferment them there on the farm. And we also have a oak age version of that moonshine we call our reserve, and we have a lower proof flavored apple shine.
I love it. It's my favorite.
And we also make a couple rums. The Carolina Coast rum brand. That's kind of a totally separate brand issue, but we make those too.
Scott, Outer Banks Distilling, Kill Devil Rum. What type of different rums are you making that differentiate?
Silver rum, pecan honey rum, which is made with all local ingredients. Barrel-aged gold rum, sits in barrel for a year and a half. We do our shipwreck series, which each one is dedicated to a different local shipwreck. It's more of an experimental batch, different types of raw ingredients. For that one, that's also an aged rum. We do a winter spice rum, a summer spice rum. That's different every year. It comes out every June, every December. We do Blackbeard's Reserve. It's a 3-year rum coming out. We have a 5-year rum coming out in 2020. But my favorite rum we did, which Vivian came and was at the distillery for, it was probably the coolest thing we've ever done. It's called the Angel Share, and that's just what evaporates out of a barrel. Right. But we had one barrel that was filled with red ribbon cane syrup. So red ribbon cane originally grew in North Carolina. The colonial period doesn't anymore. There's one place in Mississippi we're able to get it from in small amounts. We were able to fill up one barrel. So all of that goes to a different charity every year. So that's our 8th rum that we do. So we just donated, thanks to Vivian's help, we just built a new playground in Kill Devil Hills. We donated $17,500 to rebuild this playground.
I can't think of a better place for my children to hang out
than
the Kill Devil Hills playground.
Built by rum, fueled by rum. Yes. It's better than fueled by PBR, I guess. But
you can drink rum and watch them play.
Right.
Okay, so what I want to say is when I go into the ABC store, I go straight to the North Carolina section.
Right, yeah.
And that's where you can find all of this stuff, and I think that's where you should start shopping, because we have a lot of wonderful spirits made in our state, and you can find them all right there. And otherwise, it's really hard to single out what y'all are doing if you buy liquor by the bottle, which I know no one is going to admit that they do.
But I will say this to you ABC stores in North Carolina, have a North Carolina section, but also respect those brands and put them inside of the categories like vodka, gin,
they're
rum,
starting
tequila,
to. Right. Not everybody does, but
should.
They're starting
to. Yeah, they absolutely should. But if you want to find these folks, it's the first
easy to
place
find
to
them.
go. Yeah.
And also, I don't think it's been mentioned, but I think all us guys do tours at the distillery. I know I've been to your distillery, I've been to your distillery.
It sounds like hopefully you're going to do something like that, G.
Very soon.
So if anybody's interested in coming out and seeing it firsthand, check those guys out at
Check our website, ncfbpodcast.com. I'll have links to all of these websites, and you'll be able to find a place to have a great weekend in Kinston, the Outer Banks. Maybe have some oysters over at the Boiler Room.
They're coming to my house. No.
Dinner at the Farmer. So at this point, Vivian, I usually look at Matt when I'm trying to end the show. Vivian, take us out of here.
All right, Matt, and all yous, eat and drink merrily.
Oh! Thank you very much. Make sure you watch A Chef's Life finale on October 22nd on PBS.
Thanks for listening to the NCF&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.